Uh, Today we're going to be presenting about the CodeUp project, which is led by the DLCD. I'm joined with Megan, a fellow mass timber coordinator, and then also Lee is on the call, who is an economic development specialist, and she will be answering any questions in the chat that you may have. And as you can see on this slide, we have a couple pictures of mass timber housing on the top right, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So for the agenda today, we're going to be first explaining what mass timber is in the first place, and also the Oregon Mass Timber Coalition and what they serve to do. We will also talk about the CodeUp project as a whole, go over the application, and then also answer any questions and outline next steps. So for a little background, mass timber is an engineered wood product made from compressed layers of wood and adhesive, and it serves as a structural element in building construction. It's very similar to concrete and steel, and it serves similar purposes, but at the same time is also low carbon and energy efficient. As you can see on the bottom left of the slide, it's aesthetically pleasing. This picture right here is of the proposed innovation site at the Port of Portland that will be built in the next coming years. But then also mass timber has been widely used for larger buildings. There's actually a mass timber 10+ story building in Norway that is being constructed. But Oregon is really looking to move towards creating more residential units using this new kind of material. And also mass timber is fire resistant, which I'll touch on in a second. So the Oregon Mass Timber Coalition was created out of the recent wildfire events. As you can see on the left side of the screen, it encompasses some of the big players in the Oregon region. We have two of the leading research institutes, the Port of Portland, Business Oregon, the DLCD, and the Tallwood Design Institute. The Oregon Mass Timber Coalition was provided $41.4 million through the Build Back Better grant to complete the following goals outlined on the right. One, we really want to increase the mass timber economy as a whole in the state of Oregon. And part of that is establishing a mass timber manufacturing center at the Port of Portland, and as well prototyping modular homes to be used. With that, we also want to train and upskill workers in an equitable fashion, and also continue forest restoration. An interesting fact about mass timber is it actually requires a smaller diameter of trunk size to develop. So it assists in forest restoration in that aspect. And then also build 2 new mass timber research labs to continue researching things like fire resistance. And then at the bottom, development code updates. There are some complexities with allowing mass timber housing and also prefabricated structures in many areas in Oregon. And the DLCD is working to assist in that. And Megan will talk a little bit more about the CodeUp project and the development code updates.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. So this is the bulk of really what is CodeUp. So the problem that we're faced with that this is looking to solve is that the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 Labor Day fires really exacerbated the existing rural workforce housing crisis that a lot of you are familiar with. The housing shortage, this housing shortage constrains a lot of economic growth in your regions. Additionally, many jurisdictions don't have the development codes or zoning standards to support modular mass timber housing. So these need some updates to be able to implement these types of housing options. So the purpose of this program is to, like I said, create markets for these modular mass timber housing by updating state and local planning codes that remove these regulatory barriers to having these sorts of materials and types of housing be used. Additionally, it's a state priority as a part of Governor Kotek's housing plan that we invest in increasing housing production across all corners of the state. And CodeUps helps us achieve this goal by ensuring that all communities have access to resources that can help create more affordable housing and a diverse set of housing options, especially for capacity-constrained jurisdictions, which this program is targeted towards. So for some of the more concrete goals that we've lined out, these are some of the metrics that we've concluded and that we're committed to meeting through this program. But first of all, the overarching goal is just to prepare local jurisdictions to benefit from the innovations that are happening in mass timber modular housing that Oregon has become a leader and is on the forefront of this sort of innovation. Right now, for the 2023-2024 year, we're committed to doing code updates in at least 10 jurisdictions. And this is the phase that you all would possibly be applying for. Under this, the local adoptions of the new codes would happen by August 2024. After that, subsequent updates would be in at least 30 total communities throughout between 2025 and 2028 via a statewide model code that will also be developed through this. Additionally, equitable engagement with priority populations that each community will identify is one of the main goals of this program so that everyone has a seat at the table and that codes are developed with every population in mind, specifically those that are underserved. And finally, industry engagement is a huge aspect of this. The Oregon Mass Timber Coalition, like Kieran talked about, it engages many players, and so through these code updates, we're looking to have those industry leaders from all aspects of the mass timber supply chain be involved in this process. So for the nitty-gritty of what the local technical assistance that each of your jurisdictions will receive, there's 3 different types. So first we have our code consultant. This code consultant will audit your local codes to look for these regulatory barriers to mass timber modular housing, and then draft code updates and support code adoption through the end and its success. This code consultant will also help us create this statewide model code that that CodeUp is also developing through this program. Second, our community engagement consultant that DLCD will be hiring will work with each community to create an equitable engagement process that works in partnership with the underserved populations that each of you will identify. And so this person is going to be working directly with each community to engage those populations. So you don't have to worry about having a specific person at your jurisdiction to be able to do all this work. The work of the consultant is here to help you with that process. And then finally is a RARE member. And for those of you not familiar with what RARE is, RARE stands for Resource Assistance for Rural Environments, and it's a program run by the Institute for Policy, Research, and Engagement that's with the University of Oregon and also with AmeriCorps. This program places planning professionals in rural communities across the state to a range of work, and DLCD and IPRE have a RARE member completing their year of service with us through the CodeUp project, where they will be working directly with communities that are selected. Their role will be just additional project management, act as a liaison between DLCD and the communities, so a good solid point of contact, as well as additional facilitation when it comes to public meetings and increasing capacity in that way. So now for the current status of this program. Phase 1 has been completed, and that was where 5 fire-impacted communities participated in a sort of pilot program to have their codes audited. Those were Lincoln City, Gates, Detroit, Phoenix, and Talent. So their codes have been audited, and they're waiting to complete the full implementation process. Also, as a note, these 5 communities are directly admitted into phase 2 if they so choose. And so they will also be a part of this phase 2 CodeUp initiative. Right now, the application for this program is open, and we're doing community outreach and information sessions like the one you're at today. As well, the applications are due August 18th, with selection being around the end of August, and then code audits beginning September of 2023. For more of a broad CodeUp timeline, as I said, applications are due at the end of August 18th, and jurisdictions will be selected at the end of August. Technical assistance will then begin in September 2023. That process will be launched. And the completion of technical assistance and eventual code implementation will be done by August 2024. After that, there will be continued statewide awareness and training over the model codes that have been created, as well as recruitment for the 30 plus additional communities that will participate in this program between 2025 and 2028.
Great. Thank you, Megan. So now I'm going to walk through the application and show you all where it's located on the DLCD website. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to switch my screen to a different one. Perfect. So on the DLC, the Department of Land Conservation and Development website, the homepage right here, if you go to grant opportunities, in the community grants page, if you scroll down, there should be a plus sign right here, which has more information on the Mass Timber Code Assistance. We have an example of the phase 1 report, an informational one-pager, the application itself, which is a fillable PDF, and then also some more information on selection criteria of how we're going to be selecting the communities. And Lee or Megan, you could drop that link in the chat as well, if for everyone's reference. So here is the application itself. We have some background, some important key dates, and then we list again the available services that we'll be providing, the building code review, the added local capacity through the RARE member, the consultant, and also the community engagement consultant. And then also, right, that support engaging community members in an equitable way. We have a short blurb about eligibility, but there are some key factors that I will outline in a second later on that talk about how we'll be selecting communities. And for application and next steps, we ask that you email it to the DLCD grant email, and also CC your regional representative by August 18th, like Megan said, and your regional representatives are listed right here just for reference. For the application itself, we ask that you fill out your city, county, or combined cities or COG. We also ask for a contact person, general contact information, and then a couple additional questions, which include listing the people from your jurisdiction and position titles who will be responsible for managing this project locally. While we will be providing capacity, it's important that your jurisdiction has someone on hand that can provide code and also help in engaging the community and assisting in the completion of this project. And also, we want to know that your jurisdiction understands their priority and underserved populations, which are part of the state's DEI plan, hyperlinked right here. So now I'm going to pivot back over to the presentation to just go over one last piece about eligibility. I'll just be a second. So when we're looking at selection criteria, cities, counties, COGs, and jurisdiction groupings are open to apply, but we're going to be gauging the selection off of these 4 main criterias. One, capacity must be limited, but also we are requiring that staff person to kind of be that communication partner when fulfilling this project. We also want to see a desire to build mass timber and prefabricated housing, demonstrated interest and community support for that. We also, like much of Oregon, there is a high area of wildfire impacted locations. Communities that experience loss of housing will be prioritized, but also that's not a required piece of this application. And then also looking at that equity and inclusion piece again, identified priority population, and then also that commitment to engaging all members of your community through this process. So just to briefly go over some next steps, like I've mentioned a ton of times, the application is due August 18th, 5 p.m. Megan and I are great resources for you all, so please reach out to us if you have any application questions. And then also, we're totally willing to hop on a call to answer any more personalized questions or walk through the application or do anything related to that. So I really appreciate you all attending today. Thank you so much. And you're all free to go, but you can also totally stay on if you have any questions that could be answered. But really appreciate it. Thank you.